The untold truth of Jesus' 12 disciples, shocking revelations that will haunt you forever. In the dim light of history, whispers of the 12 disciples flutter like moths around a dying flame, fleeting shadows of men who walked beside a legend. But what if I told you they carried secrets darker than night? What if I told you their fates were intertwined with mysteries that would chill you to the bone? Imagine them, those 12 men, each one marked by turmoil and betrayal, their lives a tapestry woven with threads of fear and ambition. You think you know the story, but wait until the hidden truths come crashing down like thunder on a quiet night. Let us start with Judas, the infamous betrayer, whose kiss sealed an unimaginable fate. But did you know he wasn't the only one hiding shadows? Peter, the rock, had more than just doubts. He wrestled with an unquenchable thirst for power. His hands, strong enough to catch fish, trembled when the thought of sacrifice crossed his mind. Was it faith, or was it something darker that drove him, too? Imagine the weight of that truth sinking in like a stone in water, rippling through time. As we peel back the layers, the air thickens and your heart races. Each disciple, a tale of fascination and fear, woven with the secrets of lost loves and catastrophic decisions. Is it possible that one of them sought revenge? Could their devotions have twisted into something sinister? You can almost hear their whispers echoing through the centuries, fear creeping in like fog, wrapping around their souls. They stood by a man who preached love and acceptance, yet were riddled with jealousy and strife. It creates an unbearable tension that draws you closer, making you yearn to uncover more. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect, but hold on before you dive deeper. Imagine the consequences of what's yet to come. What truly happened at the Last Supper? Was it a simple meal, or a gathering shrouded in dread? As they passed bread, did they exchange glances layered with dread, concealed rage simmering just beneath the surface? Picture each man, silently grappling with their truths, bonding in the midst of betrayal, bearing the shrapnel of their own choices. What if redemption was not the endgame? What if the story turns even darker, unraveling fabric that forms the core of belief itself? The clock ticks. Secrets wait in the shadows, just beyond your reach. Don't you want to know? What else could the 12 be hiding? What will the next revelation churn up from the depths, threatening the very essence of their legacy? The tension at the Last Supper was palpable. It hung thick in the air like the scent of impending rain. The disciples surrounded the table, each man trapped in his own storm of guilt and ambition. Their faces flickered with candlelight, revealing fleeting moments of fear and a hunger for something undefined, perhaps a craving for acceptance or a desperate grasp at power. Judas sat at the far end, eyes darting, calculating. Was it anger? Was it betrayal boiling beneath the surface? He could feel Judas's pulse echo in the stillness, a beat that resonated with every shared morsel, every drop of wine poured. Could he betray his friend, the man who called him brother? But in return, what would he gain? Was wealth worth the cost of his soul? Peter, across the table, felt the heat of their silent conflict. His heart raced. It was not just loyalty he feared losing, but something much more elusive. His thoughts spiraled into darkness as he recalled his own moments of doubt. How many times had he locked eyes with Jesus, only to feel the grip of fear clutching his heart? What if his strength was only a facade? The thought churned in his gut like a storm brewing over the sea. Is it me, Rabbi? Peter's voice cut through the silence, betraying his vulnerability. Uncertainty dripped from his words, reverberating around the room. The disciples turned, eyes wide, as the weight of the question settled like lead. A chill slid down everyone's spine who among them was capable of the ultimate betrayal, but even as the words escaped Peter's lips, there was an unsettling realization. Each man was capable of betrayal, even the one they idealized as the chosen leader. Each one was dismantling their beliefs like cracked pottery pieces standing on the edge of a desperate fall. "Whoever dips his hand into the bowl with me will betray me," Jesus declared, his voice firm yet weary. The room spun, emotions crackling like glass shards on a hard floor. A heart-wrenching wave of revelation washed over them. A question tossed aside came rushing back. What if the love they practiced was entwined with hatred? What if their very destiny was a sinister web trapping them all, yet, there beneath the flickering shadows, an understanding formed among them. They were bound not by faith or truth, but by the same deep-seated fears that drove their actions. Each was desperate, grasping for hollow assurances to stave off the demons lurking just out of sight. Could they truly stand alongside their rabbi and conquer their darkness, when the very essence of their brotherhood was now cracked open before them? The room echoed with silence, pregnant with a horror none dared voice. Outside, the day waned, sunlight flickering in farewell. The disciples' hearts pounded in unison, a morbid rhythm soaring to an inevitable crescendo. The moment hung in suspended breath, stretching taut until it seemed impossible to bear, then a laugh, sharp and frigid, sliced through the tension. The sudden sound echoed through the hall like a distant thunderclap. It belonged to none other than Judas. "What if it's not just me?" His eyes glinted with mischief, yet beneath that spark lay a profound emptiness. "What if we all betray?" A shiver coursed through each disciple. Betrayal was not a singular tale, it was the blood binding them, rich and dark, writing a devastating saga none could escape. What lay ahead would seal their fates forever, a chilling conclusion ripe with awful truths. Just how deep did their treachery run? As they pondered their loyalties, a question cracked through the darkness: could their collective betrayal lead to a greater truth, or would it consume them whole? A new revelation lurked on the horizon, waiting to pull them deeper into a darkness they could never have anticipated. A fragile hush settled over the table, as if the very walls held their breath. The flickering flames of the candles danced anxiously, casting shadows that seemed to writhe and twist with malevolence. Each disciple shifted uneasily in his seat, eyes flickering from one face to another, searching for answers in a storm of uncertainty. "Judas," Peter broke the silence, his voice trembling with an urgency born from fear. "What do you mean? Do we all betray?" The question hung in the air, potent and deadly. The weight of acknowledgement crashed into them, like a sudden storm stirring the calm sea. In that moment, fingers tightened around goblets, hearts raced, and every man was laid bare, exposed to the piercing reality of their shared doubt. Judas leaned closer, a chilling grin forming on his lips. "Does it not make sense? We have all fallen short. Isn't it easier to fall together than alone?" His eyes glinted wickedly, daring them all to understand the depth of his insidious thought. Thomas shifted uncomfortably, his brows knitted in confusion. "But we follow him. We believe." Judas interrupted sharply, letting the bitterness saturate the air. "Belief is a flickering candle, Thomas. Strong enough to light a path, but a gust can extinguish it in an instant. Which of you is truly devoted? Or merely playing a role?" "Amen." Their minds raced, echoing Judas' words like an impending doom reverberating in their hearts. The cracks in their faith were widening, threatening to swallow them whole. "Enough." Jesus' voice boomed, radiating authority that pulled them back from the brink. But his face was harrowed, as if he too wrestled with a gnawing doubt deep inside. "We come together in love. That must be our strength. Love." The words should have brought comfort, yet sorrow weighed heavily in the room. They exchanged glances, grappling with the fractures pulling at their bonds. Could love be a double-edged sword, blurring the lines between loyalty and betrayal? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the door, jolting them from their unresolved thoughts. The heavy wood creaked under the sudden force as it swung open, revealing a shadowy figure silhouetted against the dying light of day. Gasps filled the room. "Who dares?" Peter shouted, fingers instinctively moving to where his sword lay. Tension seethed, knuckles whitening, breaths held in nervous anticipation. Each man prepared for confrontation, hearts hammering in desperate tandem. The figures stepped forward, revealing a face they had all come to know. It was none other than Simon, breathless and disheveled. "I have news," he panted, urgency painting his features. What news could fracture this moment further? Judas spat, the venom in his words resonating against Simon's outburst. "It's about the temple. The council is plotting against him." His voice trembled with panic, fueling the fire of unrest already flickering dangerously within them. Silence fell once more, heavy and oppressive. The implications of Simon's words weighed like lead. An outside threat loomed while they raged within. The very ground beneath their feet began to tilt precariously as the tempest brewed. Could they betray one another when their very existence was under siege? Peter's face hardened, resolve forming like solid iron. "We'll stand together. We can't let them take him." But would they? What sacrifices would be demanded? What consequences would follow their choice? As they stood at a precipice of uncertainty, the darkness whispered promises of secrets taking root. Judas's laughter echoed again, slicing through the weighty air. "You think you can protect him? That we are not already lost?" His words dripped with contempt, and the disciples felt a shudder crawl up their spines. How easily could betrayal bubble forth amidst the chaos of outside forces? The ticking clock of fate thundered in their ears. Just as quickly as resolve was cemented, the seeds of doubt festered anew, gnawing at their hearts with sharp teeth. As they turned their gazes towards each other, an unspoken question hung heavy in the shadows: would they be allies in loyalty, or would they ultimately choose to betray one another when the darkness came to claim them? The candle flames flickered once more, each flicker revealing more of the twisted reflection of the men they had become. Time was running out, as the hour of reckoning drew nearer with every heartbeat. Panic spread across the room like wildfire. Shadows loomed large, intertwining with the weight of Simon's announcement, igniting anger and fear in equal measure. The disciples felt as if the walls were closing in, a trap built from their own uncertainty. Against him? Thomas breathed, his voice a whisper, wavering between disbelief and horror. How can they plot against the Son of God? Judas's smirk widened. You say he is the Son of God, but perhaps even he is not immune to betrayal. His taunting tone scraped raw the remnants of their unity, leaving wounds that oozed doubt. Stop! Jesus interjected, but something in his voice trembled, as if his own faith wavered. We'll face them if we must. We cannot let fear dictate our actions. His eyes searched each face, grounded and yet flickering as though he sensed the storm brewing deep within, but fury erupted. What sacrifice will we make, then? Simon challenged, his hands shaking. With these words, Judas has poisoned us. What if it is one of us who decides to turn? The room echoed with resistance, each man grappling with the churning storm of doubt. Peter clenched his fists, feeling the tightening grip of reality. We've walked with him, we've witnessed miracles. We cannot allow a mere council to diminish our faith. But outside, the world was shifting, the whispers of the council spreading like dust in the air, creeping into their very hearts, and then, from the back, a voice emerged clear and steady. To stand together, we must trust. It was John, his eyes unwavering. Can we not protect him, even if the council seeks his end? Trust? Judas's laughter filled the room again, a dark, mocking sound. What has trust ever offered us? A web of deceit, a veil of lies. He leaned closer, his voice dripping with menace. What if the true betrayal lies within our walls? The disciples recoiled, the implications of Judas's words coiling around them like a serpent, squeezing tighter with every heartbeat. We cannot trust you, Judas. Peter snarled, defensive as he turned towards the man who once shared his brotherhood. The tense air buzzed with animosity and disbelief. But I am merely the mirror holding up what you refuse to see, Judas shot back, eyes glinting dangerously. The council may strike from the outside, yet the most dangerous flames often flicker from within. The implication struck a nerve. Simon's fear rippled through the men, creating a fissure. They all recognized the darkness had settled in their midst, an insidious whisper coaxing them to act. The swirling tide of emotions threatened to consume them. Moments passed, stretching, heavy with an invisible weight as silence fell once more, wrapping them in an ominous shroud. Betrayal. Suspicion. Each man felt it gnawing at his spirit, twisting the bond they had nurtured. Will we hide behind false strength? John's voice trembled with desperation. Or will we confront this threat together? We must define our loyalty, not in words, but in action. But at what cost? Judas's whisper slithered through the silence, fueling the uncertainty. Before anyone could respond, a loud banging erupted from outside, shaking the very ground beneath them. The door rattled violently as if something or someone was desperate to break through. The disciples froze. Fear ignited bright in their eyes as they realized the urgency of their situation. Faces reflected panic and confusion, each mind racing through what it could mean. Was it the council? Had they come to take Jesus? The tension snapped like a taut string. Peter moved first, hand reaching for his sword. We must prepare. But amongst their gathering storm, Judas merely smiled, a sinister curve of the lips. Oh, you're all so blind. The true enemy walks among us. For a moment, it felt like the room itself held its breath, waiting for truths to unravel. As the banging intensified, an ominous voice cried out from beyond the door, calling a name that sent chills down their spines. Jesus, we know you're in there, come out now. The disciples stood frozen, hearts pounding in their chests. Would it take just one more whiff of betrayal to sever the last thread that held them together? Or would they ally against a common enemy? The moment closed in tighter, snaring them in its grip. They needed a decision, and they needed it fast. Would they stand united, or would the deepest betrayal shatter them before any outside force could strike? Their fate hinged on this moment, a choice weighed against the heavy backdrop of impending darkness. The air seemed to vibrate with tension, thick and oppressive. Peter's muscles coiled, every sense heightened as he felt the ominous weight of their reality. We need to fight. He yelled, gripping his sword like a lifeline. Whatever threat lies behind that door, we won't let them take him. Fight? Judas hissed, his eyes alight with a cruel thrill. And what will that prove? That we're willing to shed blood to protect one who may be turned against us. Thomas shook his head, panic boiling in his chest. We can't betray one another. Surely that's not who we are. Isn't it? Judas's voice dripped with malice. What if the one you fight for is the very one leading to your end? Silence clanged like a bell in the room, palpable and suffocating. Each disciple stared into the dark corners of doubt that Judas had drawn out, their resolve beginning to waver. The banging continued, urgent and insistent. Jesus! We know you're in there. You cannot hide. The voice outside was familiar, laced with an unsettling blend of command and indignation. The council had come, and with them, an agenda darker than any of them had anticipated. Stand back. Jesus commanded, his voice keen and firm. I will handle this. Peter stepped forward, desperate to protect his master. You can't seriously go out there. What if they seize you? Or worse, Simon whispered, gripping the edge of the table as if it could ground him. What if it is one of us that sells him out? Enough. Jesus' voice cut through the clamor, fierce and commanding. The room quieted, the air still buzzing from his words. My path is set. What happens next lies not in fear, but in trust that we will face what comes together. Despite their fear, a flicker of hope sparked among the men. They had followed him through storms and despair, witnessed miracles that defied logic. Still, in their hearts, the seeds of doubt had taken root, growing wild and unruly. The pounding continued, insistent like a heartbeat, echoing their own fear. You want to escape. That voice blared again. Emotions swirled, anger, dread, urgency. Judas! Peter shouted, turning suddenly to point a finger at him. You need to make a choice. Are you with us or against us? Judas's smile widened, a deranged pleasure dancing in his eyes. Isn't that just the question? He leaned back, arms folded smugly. You think you can protect him? Or each other? You've already begun to turn on one another. A house divided cannot stand. Suddenly, John's voice broke through the fog of fear. How can we fight when we're consumed with doubt? His gaze swept the room, landing on each disciple, searching for a flicker of unity. Let us not give in to this darkness. We should show them who we are. Together. Jesus stepped closer to the door, approaching the source of their fear with a strength that ignited an ember of hope, even if dimmed by doubt. The disciples held their breath, eyes locked on him as he placed a steady hand on the door. Then let the truth be our weapon. With one harsh shove, Jesus flung the door open wide, revealing the council's menacing silhouettes. The air rushed out of the room, and the disciples stumbled back, eyes wide with shock. Confrontation had come swiftly, crashing through their fragile unity like a storm. Take him. The leader of the council barked. Bind him and end this charade. Terror punctured the moment, and the disciples jerked to life, adrenaline surging. Peter surged forward with his sword raised high, but hesitation lingered in the depths of their souls. Would they fight for the one they feared was mutable? Would they defend him, or would hesitation bring their ruin? Stay together. Jesus cried out, rallying what little hope remained in the air thickened with panic and shadows. But even as he spoke, the sound of a steel blade clashed against another filled the air, and chaos erupted. They were not just fighting for him anymore, it was for each other, for their shattered trust, and for their very souls. The screams and clamor reverberated around them as fists flew and swords met flesh. In the chaos, where loyalties blurred like colors. In a storm, a piercing truth emerged from the melee, but what truth would rise from the chaos? The answer rested unsettlingly upon the air waiting to be revealed. The room transformed into a chaotic battleground. Shadows flickered against the walls as swords clashed with a fierceness that made the air crackle with energy. Jesus stood firm, his unwavering presence an anchor amid the storm, but cracks began to form among the disciples. Peter, driven by an instinctual need to protect, swung his sword with wild abandon. His eyes darted from one figure to another, barely catching a glimpse of the faces of those he once called brothers. Their expressions were torn fear, anger, betrayal. Each swing he took felt less like an act of courage and more like a desperate grasp to hold on to something fleeting. Step back. Judas shouted, laughing maniacally as he dodged the chaos, almost enjoying the bloodshed. He watched Peter struggle with an insatiable hunger for discord. You fight for a man who is as much a prisoner as you are. Is this unity? His voice rang through the melee, taunting everyone like a siren song to a shipwrecked sailor. Thomas stood frozen, his heart pounding in his chest. What if Judas is right? He whispered, the words barely surfacing as doubt washed over him. The unmistakable sounds of the struggle swirled around him, creating a tempest of treachery and uncertainty. With each step he took, uncertainty followed, shadowing his every thought. Could the truth of their situation lie deeper than they ever dared to imagine? In a flash of anguish, John locked eyes with Jesus. There was a flicker of fierce determination deep beneath the surface of fear. We trust you. He shouted, his voice cutting through the noise like a dagger, desperation fueling his words. Yet, each phrase felt like it was on the verge of fracturing. No one was truly sure who or what to believe anymore. Do you? Judas whipped around, his face twisted with gleeful malice. Is that trust worth dying for? Would you stand for a man who may very well deliver you to destruction? With a sudden rush, Peter focused every ounce of his energy, launching himself in front of Jesus, his sword raised defiantly. I will protect him. I will not let fear divide us. His heart raced, pounding louder than the battle cries surrounding him, yet, betrayal hung thick like fog. Desperation clawed at the edges of dawn, and with a sickening twist, Peter felt the steel blade press against his neck. A council soldier had slipped behind him, eyes gleaming with malice. You'll not stand in our way, little fisherman. The others spun in panic, but it didn't matter, they were scattered. The smoldering embers of loyalty and mistrust crackled violently, ready to ignite. Simon, grappling with a council member, felt the weight of his fingers slipping as they fumbled for grip. His heart sank. What if it was one of them that ended the fight against each other? One slice away from ruin. Release him. Jesus commanded, his voice loud and clear, echoing like thunder above the din of battle. This is not how we shall end. But the weight of their choices loomed over the situation. Was this truly fate, or had they walked willingly into a flaw that had long been sewn into their fabric? An urgent truth loomed, a truth that could bind them together or tear them apart. Just then, a bright flash sparked across the darkened room, blinding everyone for a heartbeat. The council was making their move, a maneuver designed to sway the tide of chaos. Was this a sign of their defeat or the beginning of an unseen uprising? As the dust settled, shock rippled through the disciples. The acrid smell of sweat and blood consumed them, but something else loomed heavy in the air, a revelation poised to strike. What truth would change their course forever, waiting in the shadows, only one revelation shy of a storm? The burst of light washed over the room like a wave, blinding everyone just long enough for the chaos to pause. In that frozen moment, fear coiled tightly around the disciples, their swords trembling in uncertain hands. A figure emerged from the brightness, cloaked in dark garb, tall, imposing, with a hood shadowing their face. The council soldier holding Peter's throat stepped back, eyeing the newcomer with a mix of caution and apprehension. Judas's laughter faltered, his amusement giving way to suspicion. "Who dares to interrupt?" he demanded, his sneer dissipating as speculation hung thick like the tension in the air. The figure lifted their head, revealing sharp features and a piercing gaze. "I am the harbinger of truths long buried," they declared, their voice resonating with an authority that cut through the tension. "You stand on the precipice of revelation." A low murmur rippled through the group. Thomas blinked, his heart racing. "What truth?" he asked, barely able to filter through the swirling clouds of doubt and confusion already threatening to choke him. "Your loyalties are misguided," the figure continued, moving further into the room, engaging the disciples with every step. "You believe yourselves to be united. Yet, each of you carries a secret, a thread that binds you together and tears you apart." Jesus looked at the newcomer, the fire of resolve igniting within his deep-set eyes. "Your words carry weight, but we are bound by love," he countered, stepping forward with resolute defiance. "Love?" the figure scoffed, a smirk creeping onto their lips. "Love masks the truth. The real question is, can love survive the reveal of hidden intentions?" The words fell like stones, heavy and reckless. "Enough of this!" Judas shouted, a flicker of fear flashing in his eyes. "This is nothing but a trick. You think to disrupt our gathering with riddles? Do you not see?" The figure turned their piercing gaze towards him. "You are the catalyst for chaos, Judas. Yet, it is not the calamity you seek that will bring you salvation. It is the unveiling of what lies within yourselves." Peter, still breathless from the blade's pressure at his neck, looked between Judas and the stranger. "What do you mean?" His voice trembled, the reality settling like rocks in his chest. "Each of you bears the mark of betrayal," they stated, gesturing at the group. "Some weigh heavy on your conscience, while others fester in shadow. This moment will unravel it all. Can you abide the burden of truth?" The disciples exchanged nervous glances, invisible threads of connection snapping under the heat of revelation. Simon's grip faltered, his thoughts spiraling as he pondered the echoes of past decisions, small betrayals, hidden doubts. "Do you know the cost of speaking these truths?" John asked, voice quaking. "Will it destroy us? Or set you free?" the figure answered, voice calm, unwavering against the surge of fear. "But you must choose. Will you face what you have hidden, or allow it to consume you?" As the tension hung in the air, a decision awaited, a choice with the power to reshape their fate. The clang of the battle faded into the background, leaving only the weight of uncertainty. Then, from deep within the room, a faint whisper broke through the stillness. The time has come. Who would dare to make the first move? Would the truth anchor them in unity, or shatter their bonds forever? As that question loomed, the room held its breath, waiting for the storm to break. The silence shattered like glass when Simon stepped forward, his voice a shaky whisper. What if we can't bear it? The question hung heavy, suffocating. All eyes turned to him, a wave of shared anxiety sweeping through the room. The hooded figure smiled, a hint of satisfaction dancing on their lips. Then you would rather be shackled by your secrets than set free by your truths. But fear will only hold you longer in torment. Judas snorted derisively, though his bravado didn't mask his growing concern. This is madness. This is manipulation. The anger in his voice trembled, blending with the desperate thoughts racing through his mind. Could it be true? Could he, the trusted one, carry a hidden dagger meant for those he called friends? Truth often feels like madness to those who refuse to acknowledge it, the figure replied, their cold eyes piercing through Judas's facade. Each word cut deep, causing a ripple of unrest among the disciples. Peter glanced around the room, sensing the fear etched on the faces of his brothers. Simon's grip tightened on his sword, knuckles turning white. Thomas appeared lost, darting glances between the figure and Judas, trying to reconcile their loyalty with the creeping doubt that gnawed at him. The heat of the moment pressed down, suffocating. Enough of this, Jesus declared, voice booming with authority. We stand strong together. Whatever shadows haunt us, they don't define who we are. He stepped closer to the figure, unyielding. But tell us, what are these secrets? What do you know? The figure chuckled softly, a deep, echoing sound. I know human hearts, just as I know the fraying threads of your unity. Judas, with your greed for silver, you strike deals behind their backs. Matthew, your doubts whisper in the darkness. Each of you holds a shard in this fragile glass of brotherhood. With each name, a ripple of shock passed through the room. Matthew recoiled, attempting to shake off the weight of accusation. His brows knitted together, eyes darting like a trapped animal. I'm no traitor. He spat, voice trembling as fury and fear twisted together within him. What if you are? The figure thrust forth, the challenge resounding like a battle cry. What lies lost within your conscience, threatening to tear you apart? Suddenly, the tension snapped. Simon raised his sword, muscles tensed, ready to engage in a fight fueled by confusion and fear. You'll regret pushing us. He shouted, the tip of his blade pointing at the figure. His friends were testing their loyalties, his thoughts spiraling out of control. Regret? The figure echoed, stepping forward as if defying Simon's threat. Regret is not what I bring, it is clarity. And until you confront the truth, you may as well be fighting shadows. Is this how you help us? John's quiver of frustration broke through, voice high with emotion. By casting suspicion upon our unity? By turning us against each other? By igniting the fire that will lead you to change, the figure responded, unflinching. The choice is yours, face the revelations or watch your love turn to ash. A silence draped over them, thick and suffocating. All the disciples squared their shoulders, caught up in the tumult of emotions. Would love guide their choices or would betrayal tear them apart? A low rumble rattled the room, a warning of the storm brewing outside. It felt more than coincidence. The ground trembled beneath their feet, echoing the turmoil in their hearts. Then, another whisper, barely audible, seeped through the chaos. The storm is coming, and you must be ready. What awaited them beyond the threshold of hidden truths? And who would be the first to face the raging winds of their own betrayals? As the tension mounted, it became evident something far greater was afoot. The storm grew louder, a deafening roar bathing the room in a spectral light. The walls shook, rattling with the power of the wind clawing at the temple's entrance. Voices, now whispers, merged with the tempest outside. Fear crept into every heart, suffocating like the oppressive air before a lightning strike. Hold steady. Jesus shouted, steadfast despite the turmoil surrounding them. Yet within his eyes, worry flickered like the distant lightning illuminating the darkened sky. His call for unity felt fragile, like glass on the verge of shattering. Do you hear that? Mary, who had been silent until now, shattered the stillness with wide eyes, her voice quaking. It's more than just the storm. It feels alive. Judas felt the weight of each accusation still hanging thick in the air, wrapping around his throat like a noose. We're being hunted, he spat, trying to regain control over his spiraling thoughts. Our own shadows conspire against us. The figure raised a gloved hand, an odd calmness radiating from them. You all dance on the precipice of your truths. Will you face what lies within, or let your fear lead you to ruin? Hesitation swirled among them like the winds outside. Thomas took a step back. What if it's too much? What if the truth destroys us? Then let it destroy. Simon cried, a fire raging within him. Better to burn in truth than suffocate under the weight of lies. His sword trembled, wavering between defense and attack. The emotion pooled around the room, filled with regret, fear, and unyielding loyalty. Jesus turned to his disciples, his gaze dropping to Judas. Face it, brother. If you hesitate, you might find your own heart blackened by secrets. There was a challenge and a plea in his words, an unspoken bond pressing them closer together. I have no secrets. Judas felt an ache in his chest, the honesty of that declaration clashing with the storm born of doubt. I swear it before the storm and the sky. Then show us, the figure replied coolly. There lies strength in confrontation. Will you expose your hearts or let shadows claim your destiny? A violent gust whipped through the room as if echoing the urgency in his voice. Dark clouds rumbled against the walls, muffled thunder layering the pressure. Each disciple felt it, the weight of secrets throbbing like a drumbeat in their ears. Enough! Peter shouted, his voice brimming with newfound determination. We will stand together. We will face our demons, come what may. He reached for Simon's hand, grounding him. The figure watched, slyly smirking in the dim light. Bring forth your truths, and the storm will reveal who shall remain and who shall be cast away. Each word dripped with foreboding. The winds will not spare the unwilling. In that moment, an intense bolt of lightning split the sky, blinding them momentarily. The air crackled with energy, heavy with potential and danger. Simon felt his heart race, alive with sudden urgency. Let us do this. He yelled, raising his sword high, voice brimming with defiance against the figure, against the storm, against everything threatening to ravage their bond. How do we begin? Judas finally asked, his voice weak but desperate, craving unity even through the heavy burden of doubts. By revealing the darkness that clings to your souls, the figure replied, its tone chilling. One by one, let each speak what they dare not share. And then you shall know the storm within. As uncertainty loomed large over them, their eyes met shattered reflections of loyalty battling against betrayal. Could they really strip away the veils shrouding their hearts? Who would break first under the weight of the truth? The wind howled, swelling the tension. And then the whispered echo reverberated in the room, sharper than the storm itself. What truths will bind you, and what will destroy you? With every heartbeat drumming in their ears, they stood on the edge of revelation, trembling in anticipation. The tempest outside matched the turmoil within the hearts of the disciples. The air crackled with unspoken words, confessions that felt like sharp knives poised to cut deep. The storm had not just descended upon the earth, it raged within them, forcing them to confront the truth, their fears laid bare like the stark branches of winter trees against a gunmetal sky. Who will go first? Jesus asked, his voice echoing across the chaos, striking through the tension like a beacon of hope. In the midst of that charged silence, it was Simon who stepped forward, trembling, yet resolute. I'll go, he declared, voice steadier than he felt. I have harbored so much doubt, not just about my loyalty, but about my worth. I was never the true disciple, just a fisherman who stumbled into something great. I feared being found wanting. His heart hammered in his chest, but relief washed over him as he spoke, releasing the burden of his secrecy into the storm. Your worth is not defined by your role, Simon, Jesus said, gently. You are loved and chosen. That's easy for you to say, Judas blurted, his voice rising with defensiveness. You stand at the head of the table like some king. We're left grappling with our own shadows. Then speak about yours, Simon replied, voice edged with determination. Let us see how darkness pulls you under. Judas's laughter held a desperate edge. You want my truth? I'm tired of being the scapegoat. I'm tired of shackles that come with belief. Every day is a dance of betrayal or loyalty, I wonder why I try. His confession surged like a tidal wave, but with it came the uncertainty of if he dared to unveil his darker truths, ones that pained him deeper than betrayal itself. Thomas stepped forward, eyes wide with a mix of fear and similar doubt. I'm afraid, too, he muttered, voice barely above a whisper. Afraid of letting you down, of believing blindly. What if we're wrong? What if we're on the wrong path? The weight of his words felt heavy enough to drown them all. As Thomas's words settled in the room, John stepped up. But fear can't bind us. It must become our strength instead. I've never had the courage to admit it, but I owe my commitment to you, Jesus, more to my fears than my faith. He faltered, then squared his shoulders. I can't lose anyone else. I've felt the sting of abandonment before. Judas's sneer faded as a veil of understanding washed over him. They were all wrestling with shadows of their past, like moths flying too close to the flame but too terrified to circle far away. Then came the figure cloaked with urgency. Now is your time, Judas, they pressed gently. Let the light in. Let it illuminate the dark truths you clutch so tightly. For every secret holds the potential to bind or shatter your bonds. Judas felt the steel grip of fear tighten around him as he wrestled with his own demons. I have desired silver, yes, but it's also a sense of being more important, of being someone. I wanted to matter, but I realize it's turned me to a monster. I don't want to be consumed by this darkness, consumed by power. Each admission was a sword thrusting him anew, yet at the same time, it felt oddly liberating. The air hummed, wrapped around them like a warm embrace, releasing decades of anguish. Vulnerability hung heavy. Can we heal? Simon asked, struggling to keep hope alive in the depths of his shifting reality. You can, the figure declared, voice a soothing balm against their fears. Facing your truths lets you shape your destiny. Beneath the chaos and clamor outside, a quiet resolve built, like a ripple quickening into a wave. The disciples exchanged fervent glances, an unspoken pact forming in the ether, binding them together anew. And as the winds began to thunder outside with a vengeance, the storm subsided in their hearts. They found themselves united by a fragile fire of hope, illuminated by shared struggles. Together, Peter said, stepping forth beside Jesus, his voice unwavering. Together we will face the council. Together we will rise above sorrow and betrayal. Together, we are stronger. Each disciple echoed that sentiment, sealing it with nods of agreement. Together, Jesus replied, gripping the hands of his brothers firmly. My love binds us, forged through every scar we've laid bare. As long as we stand united, nothing can break our bonds. With renewed strength, they moved toward the door, ready to face the storm not just outside but within themselves. For the truth they had revealed was a turning point, one that forged a new path through darkness, to quell the chaos and fear that threatened to engulf them. As they pushed through the threshold, side by side, they became more than 12 men, they became a force, an army fueled by faith, love, and an enduring spirit to confront whatever awaited them. They had faced the storm of betrayal within and emerged stronger, ready to fight together against the shadows encroaching. The dusk around them gathered, but they stood as a beacon of light, ready to carve their destiny into the hearts of the world. United, they surged forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever awaited them. This moment became their legacy, but now, dear friends, here is the moment of truth for you. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second. You don't want to miss our next exclusive story. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't keep these revelations to yourself. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything, and only true fans understand how crucial it is to stand with us. Let us build this community together.